Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here, Kayak Fishing Show live, as always brought to you by all these awesome sponsors scrolling across the bottom. Of course, those are the current sponsors. Episode we're hearing today is an old one, so definitely older sponsors. So the episode's from season 3, so that was probably a couple years off for COVID. This is like 12 years ago. So quite a while ago. Excuse me. For anybody who's new to this, we are here every Tuesday and Thursday. I apologize to you guys who showed up on Tuesday this last week. I had the joy of doing my taxes and writing a mighty big check to the government, which is never fun. But back at it. Again, we're here every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays, we air the Jackson Kayak years. And on Thursdays, like today, we air the older stuff back when we were with Ocean Kayak. I generally don't go back and watch the episodes beforehand, so it's kind of nice. I'm watching along with you guys, kind of reliving the trips, and it's always fun to kind of bring back these memories. Just going through and grabbing a picture for the thumbnail for the video just brought back great memories of amazing catches, but also one of the most brutal trips weather-wise ever. And you guys know me, I get killed by weather all the time. This was a super remote trip in Alaska. We got dropped off on an island. And you can basically see there's our kayak sitting there. We camped. There's a tent on that side right there. So we basically camped with our tents on the beach. If you've ever been to Alaska, I mean, just insane tide changes. The water is probably 50 feet that way. And then you can see where the kind of kelp line is, and that's how high it would come up. So we always had to make sure our kayaks were way, way, way up. I said this was a great trip. We were with my buddy Howard McKim, who is kind of a legend in kayak fishing. He actually hired me as a guide here in San Diego when he was just starting kayak fishing, and then invited me to come up to visit him in Alaska when he had moved up there, and wanted me to see his operation because he was running guided kayak fishing trips in Alaska and in Ketchikan. And we just became friends, and we ended up doing a couple of shoots with him and always had just awesome adventures. This one, as I recall, the fishing was pretty good and nothing spectacular, but we got some very good fish. The biggest thing is we got absolutely hammered by weather. And we, like I said, we had been dropped off for 5-6 days, as I recall, on this island. And it was we basically spent a good portion of the trip sitting underneath a tarp and by a fire. And so by the end of the trip, everything just stunk of smoke. And but we had so many laughs, had such a good time. But the scary part was you'd be laying in your tent on the beach. And like I said, the weather was insane. It was pouring with rain and insanely high winds. And you're laying in a tent right next to these dense woods there, and you would hear trees falling over. And it's just like, I hope one of them doesn't decide to fall this way. it was actually quite sketchy. But everything was soaking wet. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't be dry. But like I said, we still had a great time in an absolutely beautiful location. Got a couple people checking in here. Let me get rid of that banner of the sponsors. Of course, we do invite you to bring on your questions, comments, share the video, give us a thumbs up. All that stuff really helps with our engagement and reach and all that stuff. And I've told people before, Facebook only sends us out to about 1% of our subscribers. So it's great to be watching on Kayak Fishing Tales on YouTube, so you can subscribe and hit for notifications so you make sure that you get notified. Also join the Kayak Fishing Show group. We've had a lot of people joining the group lately, and so I certainly invite you that have joined the group to engage in that group, share stories, do whatever, ask questions. It's a great place for that. At the moment, it seems like I'm the only one ever posts in the group, but we have a lot of members. So anyway, like I said, I saw a couple of people checking in. Mitch LeCoupe, how you doing from Ontario, Canada? Hope things are well up there. Mitch, was it you I just saw got a new blue sky? I thought I saw somebody up there had. If so, I'd love to hear how you like that. Landon, Doug, how you doing, man? Zach, how you doing? Hope you're doing good. Liam, you're kind of lagging, man. You're normally the first one to check in, and now you're like the fourth. Come on, man. Pick it up. Bonnie, thanks for joining us. Pamela Worth from Tampa. Always good to see you. Looks like you have a nice cubera in your lap in that picture. Did you see that massive cubera they caught at Los Busos this week? It wasn't caught on a kayak. It was caught from the Ponga, but a guy got a blue marlin or a black marlin. I'm sorry. And then the next day fishing out of the Ponga got just a massive cubera. They said it's a world record. Of course, you can only go by, they're not weighing them, so it's a length world record. So, but still very, very cool. Steve, Carol, thank you so much for sharing it. I do appreciate it. Janos, how are you? Zach, the fact that you've been doing these Tuesday and Thursday airings for this long and still have not made it to the end is a testament. Yeah, and there's a lot of them. Like I said, it was 13 years. For 11 of the years was 13 episodes a year. And then the last 2 years were very limited runs. And then, of course, we haven't shot in a couple of years. So trying to decide if I am getting back to it. The shoulder is still terrible and my back is terrible. I'm going to be going to ICAST in July and see if we can get some energy going again and get some sponsors back on board. I know all my current sponsors say they will come back on board, but it's also a matter of me working on the production end of things. So trying to figure it out, but still having fun and still have a great time sharing this all with you. Mitch, yes, got the new blue sky. We'll pick it up next week. Oh, okay. So you haven't actually got it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hear how you like it with the new drive. My blue sky still has the old drive. Of course, it has the 1103 Torpedo on the back of it, or it will once I actually have a chance to get it on the water. Still not able to fish. And there's one more comment here for what is it's kind of hidden. Oh, Janice says hi, Pam. So again, thank you all for joining us. Like I said, Howard McKim is in this episode. I've kind of lost contact with Howard. I'm not really sure what he's doing nowadays. I believe he sold his guide business up in Alaska. So I'm not 100% sure what he's doing. He's a real kind of lives off the grid sort of dude. And he loves that. I mean, he likes to be in Alaska during the winter, which, I don't like that much darkness, but he's a hell of a fisherman and a great guy. And we always had a lot of fun with him. If you don't know Howard, look him up. He's a giant. He's like 6'9" or something insane. For a long time, he had the record for the largest fish actually landed off of a kayak and, 100% solo. I want to say it was 183 pounds. It was a 183-pound halibut that he caught up in Alaska. The story behind it was pretty wild. He hooked it a short distance from his home, and because the fish was so big, there was no way he was actually landing it in open water from his kayak. So he would get it close to the boat and then paddle, and we were all paddling, then paddle holding onto the rod until he could get to an island, and was able to get to this island and then land it from shore and then strap it down to the kayak and then paddle the rest of the way home. All told, I think it was like an 8-hour day or something from the time he hooked it to the time he got it back in. So it was a heck of a catch. And the thing is, like I said, Howard is so tall. You see a picture of him with this fish, it doesn't look nearly as big. But when you understand how tall he is, it's pretty incredible. Is there another comment there? What is the name of the group that you mentioned earlier? The Kayak Fishing Show group, is that what you mean? We do have, the Kayak Fishing Show group page on Facebook. Like I said, we have quite a few members now. But like I said, it seems like I'm the only one who posts on there. But if nothing else, it's good to be a member of the group, because if you're a member of a group, you're more likely to get notified of when we go live. But the more you participate, you give the thumbs up and do all that stuff, the more likely you are to get notified of when we are live. And that's the whole key. And my understanding is Kayak Fishing Tales, the YouTube channel, does the best at notifying our viewers of when we go live. So, okay, thank you. Let me join now and post some pictures. And I will remind people that if you do watch our show from the group page, on the posting, you have to click to give StreamYard permission to use your name. Otherwise, if you comment over there, it comes up on my screen as Facebook user. It doesn't give your name. But if you give it permission, we can see who we're talking to. So with that, like I said, this was from season 3, episode 9. It's 2 parts. So we'll have part 2 of this one next week. That's what we generally used to do all the time. If we're going on a long trip, we try to get 2 episodes out of a destination. And particularly at places like this, where there's just so much to get. So like I said, this is part 1. And like I said, I have not watched this episode in years, so I couldn't really tell you what was in what episode, but I will have stories along the way. And if you do have any questions, by all means, shoot me your questions, comments. I always love to see them. Also, if you're watching on a replay, let us know you're watching on a replay. And I always like to know where people are watching from. We do get viewers from all over the world, and I always think that's really cool to see where people are watching from around the globe. And I'm sure other people like to know, where there's other kayak fishing communities. It's pretty awesome that since I started, there were so few kayakers in the world, and or kayak fishermen, I should say. And now there literally are kayak anglers all over the world. And that is just so awesome. So anyway, let's get this episode rolling. Kayak fishing in Alaska.
This week on the Kayak Fishing Show, I'm hooking up with my good friend and kayak fishing legend, Howard McKim. Once a year, Howard and his company Ketchikan Kayak Adventures sets up a trip that is truly for the hardest of the hardcore kayak angler. A week of fishing and camping in the remote wilds of Alaska's coastline. Somewhere on a secret island is a place where the halibut bite and the lingcod roam. And we're gonna catch them all. I know there's lots of rockfish and lingcod up there, and I still haven't had my hand on an 80-plus pound halibut. Stick around, this was just crazy.
At the forefront of any sport, you inevitably find someone pushing the limits. While kayak fishing has been exploding in popularity, Jim Sammons has been doing just that.
Yeah, look at these. Nice.
From the seat of his ocean kayak, Jim challenges the world's top game fish and puts his kayak fishing skills to the ultimate test.
Never fought a kayak, have you, fish?
From freshwater to saltwater, Jim's mission is simple: to discover the best fishing destinations in the world and prove that anything is possible from a kayak.
That's a healthy fish. Oh, nice!
And the little one got away.
Ocean Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you in part by Ocean Kayak, makers
Jackson
of the
Kayak.
Trident and Ultra series of fishing kayaks. Ex Officio, made to adventure. Seagar, always the best fishing line. Okuma Fishing Tackle, there's no stopping Okuma. Hook One Kayak Fishing Gear, get everything you need to get out there and hook one. Maui Jim, eliminate glare, turn up the color. And the Heliconia Press, cutting edge outdoors media. This week on Ocean Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show, Jim Sammons is joining old friend Howard McKim for a week of camping and fishing on a remote island deep in Alaska's wilderness.
We're in Ketchikan, Alaska with my good friend Howard McKim, and we're going to go get us some fish. We're going to be camping for 5 days, just having a great time in a beautiful part of the country.
Let's do it.
Howard and Jim have teamed up several times over the past few years to search for big adventure in their small boats. Howard is a legend in the kayak fishing world for hooking, fighting, and landing a 183-pound halibut from his kayak.
Kayaked across the channel, spent the night on an island. Hooked a big fish about 6 a.m. Fought it till noon or so, and thought about landing it in the water to see if I could, but really didn't want that one to get away because I want people to see what you can do from a kayak.
Howard's recognition as one of the top big game kayak anglers only grew following his incredible fight with a 300-pound marlin, which dragged Howard over 10 miles offshore.
So for this marlin, I was using 20-pound monofilament line with a 80-pound Seagar fluorocarbon leader, and I believe about an 8.0 Mustad hook, circle hook. On this particular day, we had a hurricane coming, and it had a lot of rough weather. We had fought this fish several hours, 3 to 4 hours. We were 10 miles further offshore than we were when it started. We had to get it back to the hotel. I just cranked down the drag, hold on to that fish as hard as you can. I knew it was going to break when it broke. Gave it all we had, the fish gave it all it had, and the fish is hopefully still swimming out there.
But Howard's passion for kayak fishing goes beyond big game adventures. There's nothing Howard enjoys more than taking people out in kayaks to experience the Alaskan wilderness. And so, summer is a busy time as Howard and his Ketchikan Kayak Company guides take hundreds of tourists out in kayaks. But as the summer winds down, the touring boats get moved to storage, and Howard pulls out his fleet of ocean kayaks for a very special multi-day trip offering designed specifically for avid kayak anglers.
This particular spot is special because it encompasses so many things that are hard to find in one place here. So we have protected water, great fishing. We also have open coasts, open water. We have some inlets to go up in, lots of coves. It encompasses the distance from town, the great fishing, islands with no bears on them, sandy beaches. All of these things are so hard to find in themselves, but then to put them all together into one location, really happy to find this spot.
Stay tuned, because when you're 100 miles from the nearest phone on 15 feet of plastic, anything can happen.
That fat belly.
Yeah, that fish you had there, if you're not familiar with them, was a Lingcod. They are delicious, but they are quite the predator. They're a very interesting fish. I mean, a heck of a set of teeth as well.
Ocean Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you in part by Ocean Kayak, makers of the Trident and Ultra series of fishing kayaks, and the Torque, which features a removable Minn Kota motor. Check them out at oceankayak.com. This week, Jim Sammons is hooking up with longtime friend and legendary kayak angler Howard McKim of Ketchikan Kayak Company in Alaska.
One of the very first shoots we did when we started shooting our show was up here in Ketchikan with my good friend Howard McKim, and he invited us to come back. I'm really excited. It was one of the best trips we had since we've been shooting, and Ketchikan is such a beautiful place, and this time we're going to do a remote trip. We're going to be doing some camping, going after salmon, halibut, rockfish.
Today our plan's to get to camp, so finally got a break in the weather. We're going to try to get out of here and see if the seas are all right. Get ourselves down there today.
after we fix the boat.
The boys have packed up a week's worth of gear on Quicksilver, Howard's little runabout. The weather report is grim as Mother Nature threatens heavy rain and wind. But fortune smiles on the bold today as calm conditions allow the guys to get to the remote destination. After a long ride into the outback, the guys arrive at the island and quickly unload. Howard's friend Brian has been staying on the island for over 30 days. His job is to tend the camp, cook for the guests, and keep things running smoothly. This will be his last group of the season, and he can't wait to get on the water and fish.
My name's Brian Oakland. I live in Bellingham, Washington half the year, Ketchikan up here, working with Howard the other half. Got here by a series of circumstances that ended up working out in my benefit. You have to be lucky to get this kind of job. Our primary purpose is to enjoy where we are and to fish as well. It's not all about just fishing and then the rest is over. You know, it's really about being here.
Howard knows that the weather could break at any moment, and so after stowing everything under tarps, it's time to take advantage of the calm weather.
This particular day. I'm not sure yet, but we'll definitely include these guys as one of the tickets today. We're down here camping on some islands here, and we're going to go try some fishing spots off the corner of these islands and straight offshore and see what we can find out there.
And fishing unfamiliar waters, you know, it's nice to have a guide out here. Howard's been fishing out here, but also just having that fish finder on the boat. I mean, it's made the difference of me catching fish and not catching fish on a lot of occasions. There was another bite. Just seeing drop-offs, sticking to the lingcod, rockfish and halibut, more of a flounder. Yeah, it's not a halibut, it's flounder.
Sound the same, but the girls, they always change. Like a current shifting, people never stay the same.
There you go. I came along the edge of this kelp and saw some nice structure there and dropped down. So having a portable fish finder is so nice.
Random snag along the bottom guy, so we'll run it back down.
You got it.
And the rain starts.
On the Lucanus.
After a great first day on the water, the boys head in for some dinner and a well-deserved night's rest. Stay tuned. Ocean Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show will be right back with more incredible fishing in Alaska with Howard McKim. Ocean Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you in part by Scotty, Standard Horizon, Maui Jim, and Hook One Kayak Fishing Gear.
Yeah, one of the really cool things about fishing up in Alaska like this is the variety of fish you catch. I mean, there are so many different rockfish, the yellow eyes and chinas, and I'm just so many different rockfish. And then, of course, the lingcod and the big halibut. So it's just amazing place to fish. To you in
part by Ex Officio and their new Soul Cool collection of shirts made with ice fill technology, which actually dissipates heat and provides a cooling effect. Check them out at exofficio.com.
The abundance of fish in Alaska is incredible. Rockfish, salmon, halibut. But one of my favorites
I just said
is the
that.
lingcod. These things are true predators. They'll take lures, they'll take bait. I'm going to give you some tips today to help you land the big one. Lingcod like structure. They like drop-offs. How are you going to find those? You got to have a fish finder. If you're traveling to a remote location, bring a portable fish finder with you. You won't regret it. It'll help you catch more fish. Goes without saying, lingcod are toothy. They have a mouthful of teeth. Make sure you're either using a wire leader or a very heavy mono leader, 100, 200 pound test. It will help ensure that you land that fish instead of leaving them there with a hook in their mouth. If you can find a drop off and a lot of structure, that's where you're going to find these lingcod. Drop that lure all the way to the bottom and then some very subtle or slow motions. Wind it up, drop it back down. It's very subtle. It's not like yo-yo fishing. You don't drop it down and grind it up as fast as you can. Drop that lure down and just have it moving very subtly. The lingcod cannot resist it. Once you feel the bite of a lingcod, sometimes they don't actually have the hook in them. Don't try to set the hook. You'll just pull the lure out of their mouth. Just continue a slow grind all the way to the surface. The fish is going to work its way up to the hook, and hopefully he gets stuck.
That's a good one right there.
Lings can reach a very large size, but take a long time to get there. So please practice responsible harvest and let the big ones go. Until next time, I'm Jim Sammons, and that's your kayak fishing tip of the week.
For more tips and your chance to win a fantastic kayak fishing package that includes an Ocean Kayak Trident fishing kayak and ex officio clothing, visit kayakfishingshow.com.
Yeah, we're not giving away a kayak. Sorry.
It's gotten chilly.
I'm Howard McKim, owner of Ketchikan Kayak Company. We're about 40 miles outside of Ketchikan, Alaska, down here in southeast Alaska on the southern portion in the rainforest and on the open coast here. So at our base camp where we run 5-day trips every season. And this is how we end our summer every year.
Several years ago, Howard started Ketchikan Kayak Company with only a few fishing kayaks and permission to launch from the local dock. These days, Ketchikan Kayak Company is the top guiding service in southern Alaska, taking hundreds of avid birders, paddlers, and adventure seekers out on tours every summer.
Our target species around here is halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfishes, your typical Alaskan species, but we have them all, and we have them all right here next to these islands.
The fishing is awesome. It's unbelievable. So yes, it is a very important reason to come up here. You come up here to fish. We're far enough off the coast where we don't have to worry too much about big four-legged creatures coming up here. They don't want to make the swim. And we also don't have to worry about mosquitoes. So those are two characteristics of the islands I don't want to miss, because being able to be out in the wilds of Alaska without having to deal with mosquitoes and big giant four-legged creatures is really nice.
For us to get out here, it takes a lot of coordinating, especially transportation-wise. We're about 40 miles by sea from town, so...
All right, double hookup.
Takes a bit of doing on our part, but as far as customers go, you just need to sign up, have a little bit of experience outdoors and in the kayak, and we take care of you from there. So it doesn't take a lot on the customer side other than some common sense and a little bit of experience.
A big Lingcod, same as Jim just got, right on the drop-off here.
I got my Akuma Andros fishing braid so we can just feel everything. And then with a top shot of fluoro, Seaguar fluorocarbon. Oh no! That is a Lingosaurus rex.
I've been cut by those teeth.
Oh, they are just a mouth of teeth, just like a pike or a muskie. It's just the exterior of their mouth, the whole roof of their mouth, everything is teeth. Man, they are just a mouth of teeth. Look at that guy's mouth. Holy crap. Nice. Nice big lingcod. Look at that. So having the boga surely makes it easier to handle these fish. I don't have to touch him too much. He's spinning, but it's not hurting his jaw because the head spins. And I mean, these are big old fish. So we want to get him back in the water, release him. What a good fight. And he just easily just starts kicking his tail and swims away. Whew.
The other cool thing about lingcod is, unlike a lot of the other rockfish, they don't have a swim bladder. So you don't have to worry about them not being able to get back down, recompressing them. So you can just let them go and they'll swim down. Like I said, they're quite aggressive. Had a shoot, I think it was the first time we were there, and I was on a small lingcod and a bigger lingcod grabbed onto it. I never had the hook in it, but I brought that fish all the way to the surface, hanging on to the other one. I lifted the whole thing out of the water with my rod because I wanted my videographer to get a shot of it. Dropped it back in, lifted it up, dropped it back in, lifted it up, dropped it back in, grabbed my boga grip, put my boga on the big one. He spun. The other fish, the small one, went flying, and I landed the big one without ever having a hook in it. So that was pretty cool. That was a really cool catch.
There he goes.
As the boys prepare for another day on the water, the skies above their little island darkens, and the trees begin to sway in the wind. It's looking like their luck may have almost run out. When we come back, the boys race to the water before the bad weather hits.
No, it gave us a good morning of fishing. It was nice and calm.
And a good morning to set up and
Yeah,
prepare.
that was a great morning.
Because could have woken up to this.
Yeah, we were there. I think it said we were there for 5 days. We didn't actually end up getting a whole lot of time on the water because of the weather was just so bad. But we had fun. We scavenged on the beach and made lures from the stuff we found on the beach, and then had a little contest to see who could catch the biggest fish on a beach-made lure.
Inspiring
that was super
design
fun.
meets stunning performance. Check out Okuma's full line of rods, reels, and fishing accessories at okumafishing.com. After an incredible first day in Alaska, their luck is beginning to change. The rain is nothing more than an inconvenience, but growing winds cause havoc for kayaks in open water.
Well, sometimes it's just best to stay in camp. It has been dumping and dumping and dumping since yesterday about 4 o'clock. Pretty much nonstop rain. And not just rain, but very windy last night. So sometimes you just got to know when it's best to stay on land and not go out.
Left with no other option, the guys hunker down in camp and wait for better weather. And Howard and Jim take the time to prepare special fishing lures from stuff they found around the camp.
We are doing something that we did on our first trip here, and that was we made some lures. We made a lure out of bottle caps. So Howard's got a little kit here for people who show up now to make their own lures and see who can catch what on their own lures. So it's got bottle caps, it's got some hair, got miscellaneous other stuff in here, split rings. So we make our own lures and see what we can come up with. Gonna put a little weight up ahead of it. Hopefully that thing will just get up in the current.
After a long morning spent sitting on hands, their luck changes as the wind dies down. It's time to test their new lures.
I'm kind of having some fun. I got my new Okuma Cedros low profile reel on a really light rod, basically a very light bass rod kind of setup. And fishing the edges drop off. Went out about 160 feet. Dropped down my custom Jim Sammons signature edition special Alaska lure. And I got myself a nice little yellow eye here. This week in Alaska, we are remote and we're targeting rockfish and lingcod. A really nice setup for that is the Okuma Andros reel. If I have to pull a fish up from a long way, this thing's a 2-speed. I really like that, and it's nice and small to handle. For the rod setup, I've got an Okuma Andros. One of the very cool things about it when you're doing a lot of travel is this is a 2-piece, so I don't need to have my 8-foot rod tube. Great setup. On my reel, I'm loading that up with 60-pound Seaguar Kanzen braid. On the top end, these fish are toothy. They will bite you off. So I want at least a 100-pound fluorocarbon leader on the end. And tied on to the end of my homemade lure that caught me so many fish is a Mustad big game J hook. And this is an 11-aught. And that's our setup for chasing lingcod in Alaska. Check it out. That's right, guys. It's a better fish. It is a better fish. You're dumping line. Listen to this. I don't like fishing with a clicker on, but I thought I'd give you a little sound effect there. We're fishing there's a lot of kelp, there's a lot of rocks. You want a line that's going to give you a good abrasion resistance. That's why we're really excited. We've got the new Seaguar Kansan line. They're braid. And of course, I love fishing braid because it's just so sensitive. I'm pretty sure that's now my biggest lingcod. Gotta be careful you don't slip when you do that and catch your own hand on his teeth. Right. Whoa. Well, he's ready to go. There he goes. Woo, that was a good fish.
The wind picks up and makes it impossible to stay on the water. Jim and Howard finally give in and head back to shore to hide under the tarp. Little do they know, there's no end in sight.
Well, we had glassy water yesterday, rough seas today. One day can make a huge difference around here, so we'll give it a day. Just kick it today by the fire and be ready to go in the morning.
Cleanest water you're ever going to get, Western Ringway.
Because if it wasn't for Brian's handiwork on our shelter, we would be very wet. With my style of kayak fishing, I spend an awful lot of time with my paddle in my hand out trolling. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have the best paddle available. That's why I use the Werner Callista. The Callista's performance core blades have an extremely light and buoyant feel on the water.
And it is still the best kayak paddle out there.
All day feel effortless. The Callista is the ultimate choice for low-angle paddlers. One of the other great features of the Callista paddle is the Smart View adjustable ferrule, which lets you determine what feathering works best for you. You can see the great line of Werner paddles at wernerpaddles.com.
Next week on Ocean Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show, we return to Alaska and visit our soggy trio of anglers. And hopefully, the weather will finally break and the fish will start to bite.
And there's still so much to do. Well, I guess I'll keep chasing my tail, if that's what I've got to do. It's time to kill, it'll turn on you.
So that song is actually
More tips
by
or information on how you can join me on a kayak.
that song was actually by Brock Zeman, who does the theme song for the show, the current show. So always liked his music. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're watching on a replay, please let us know. Always, again, like to know where people are watching from. If you can, do us a favor and share it with your friends. That definitely helps. And, give us the thumbs up, do all that stuff. If you're watching at Kayak Fishing Tales, make sure you hit subscribe and get your notifications. See, there was Rema from Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico, man. I need to go back so bad. And we literally were supposed to go back. And then there was just like one thing after another hit Puerto Rico. And then, of course, COVID. And then our good friend Omar Araka passed away. And it's just too bad because I really, really would like to go back. So I mentioned earlier, hey, I'll say hi, Bobby Daly Tucker, for joining us. Thanks, man. I mentioned this earlier. We see this one says Facebook user. That's what happens if you don't give the group page and StreamYard permission to use your name. So I do appreciate you joining us. But if you give it permission, we can say hi to you personally. And we've got Miami is here. So thank you again for joining us. Of course, these are all available on probably the easiest way to find all these old episodes is on Kayak Fishing Tales, just because they catalog easier. And, You have your pet playlist. I have the playlist of all the full episodes. So if you want to go back and watch any of these old episodes, if this is all new to you, we have a lot. There's a lot of episodes over there. Like I said, we've been doing this for 13 years. We got a lot of episodes up over there, and I've been doing these every Tuesday and Thursday. I'll be back here next Tuesday with more of the Jackson kayak years, and then back again on Thursday. So again, I do appreciate you all. I appreciate you all for joining us. I appreciate you all for interacting and sharing these things. It really means a lot. If you are going out on the water, please remember, always wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up. Y'all take care.
Word to the wise, if your mama ain't taught you, don't stand in front of a man and a fish he ain't caught yet. Honey, if the world calls me, tell him I'm fishing. I'm going fishing. Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Wouldn't you like to? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Where am I headed? Wouldn't you like to know? I'm going fishing. Woo!